Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be the Love to Awaken Our Souls. Thank you so much again for tuning in this week. I'm Stacy Musial.
And I am Brenda Carey. We are your co-hosts and souls on the journey. We are on a mission to raise the consciousness of humans and the planet, and we need your help. Please spread the word to your family and friends and join us every week. Consider becoming a Patreon supporter or a sponsor to help with the operating costs, like editing and the many hours we spend creating these shows with quality guests and content. And if you have resonated with our mission, support us in a way that raises your vibration to love.
And if it feels safe for you, I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a moment to get centered with us. I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present. And take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release in this now moment. And take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love for yourself. And imagine breathing that light and love and send it back to all of humanity, remembering that you always, always have your breath to come back to.
Well, welcome listeners. I am really excited about our deeper dive topic in this episode, and we are continuing the conversation around self-love, which as of this recording, we're in the month of February, and I feel like it is so pertinent to really focus in on this inner love so that we can authentically radiate that love out to others. So just a quick recap, and if you didn't catch our last episode on self-love, I would encourage you to listen to that. But Stacy and I really dived into this concept of like, what is self-love? And well, we realized first of all, like what it is not. It is not selfish. It is not narcissistic or overindulgent, which can be a kind of a prevalent theme, I think, when people think of self-love. And I think for me personally, it can be very practical. There are practical things that I do throughout my day and my week, such as like self-massage, such as dates with myself, doing something fun and enjoyable and not necessarily for a specific outcome or goal, but things that I do for myself that are, I think, above and beyond self-care that shows myself that I am worthy, I am deserving of doing certain things so that I can be that authentic self. And I get to know myself a little bit better. And I think that's one of the journeys that I'm on in this lifetime, is to know myself deeply and to love myself deeply. And so we're continuing this conversation because after we are working towards, and it's a daily practice, at least it is for me, this daily practice of self-love. So how can we radiate that to others, whether that's loved ones, whether that's people we just meet at the store, acquaintances, those types of individuals, and then even further out, like into the world, to raise the consciousness of humans and the planet, which is our mission here at Be the Love podcast.
This is such a beautiful topic because really, when we start to focus on ourselves and really come from a place of loving ourselves and knowing ourselves, we also start showing up differently in relationships. And it's so important to recognize how we show up. And when we start to really tune in to ourselves in a loving way, we can be a lot more discerning of how what kind of maybe people that we want to allow into our lives, or the energy that we want to allow in our lives. And we don't get pulled by other people's demands or influences because we're coming from a centered place. And so, part of loving ourselves is being able to set boundaries and recognizing that we're not going to, we don't need to show up and please anybody because we are, listening to what's really important for our own soul. And we allow that space to see what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And that's so important because, we can have, people will come into our lives, and it's important to recognize like what is, the energy that is being exchanged. Is it a place of reciprocity? Is it a place of, you know, wanting to give to them because there's a pattern there that we've always had, so it's really being able to show up in a loving way and to feel into that and really honor our own boundaries and what feels good.
I love that you brought up the concept of discernment. And for me, that was huge because once I had the self-love practices within, I could discern for myself the practices that I felt worked the best for me, and it's different for every person, and really what didn't work, and just let those aside. And that translates into relationships directly. So when I can figure out in my own body and in my own mind what I do want to allow in, that energy that you were talking about, the reciprocity, and the energy that I don't think is serving me well, that translates into relationships. The people that I, encounter, do I allow them in to come into my energetic field? And is that a wise choice for me? And I'm not saying we always have that ability. Like sometimes family members, they come in when they come in. We don't always have that choice, but I can also, when I am, I hate to say forced, but when I do have to engage with people that maybe I wouldn't necessarily choose, I can protect myself, whether that's just as simple as not engaging in as deep of a conversation or just listening to that person and then sending them loving energy, even if we're not, on the same page or not in the same belief system. And that's okay. I don't have to take it on. And I think that's where the discernment is really, I think, crucial to have healthy relationships. Like, who do we allow into our space that we trust? Have we built that trust with them? And who's a kind of like wait and see, or, you know what, just for right now, this isn't a healthy person for me to allow in. And so I love that you brought up that how self-love translates into discernment.
Absolutely. I think that's so important, and it kind of follows along with the same, in the same space as vulnerability, right? Because we are, I think there's such a need for wanting to share and having deep relationships. And this is a theme that I know for myself, like I really thrive on deep, connected relationships where I can be completely vulnerable and share and have someone also provide safe space for me to do that. And, I can provide the same safe space, but it's really an important thing that, when we discern where we can open up with someone else who's also going to provide that safe space. And that's, about honoring ourselves and trusting ourselves to know what feels good and when we can be vulnerable. And it takes time. It takes time to build these relationships, and so I know there's a common, theme that a lot of people might have, that they want to open up so quickly because they feel connected with people or someone, which is great. But then there's this shame that comes up with opening up too much because this person didn't respect their space. And, we live in such a instant gratification society where we want those relationships, but we're not discerning who we're opening up to our most vulnerable thoughts and feelings, which is so important to have to really honor ourselves in such a deep way.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you brought up this idea of time and patience. It's not a trendy thing in our instant gratification
Mm.
world. I get that. And it's work. Like I don't mean to like de-glamorize the whole idea of love and romance. I mean, I can only speak, personally, I've been married now for 25 years, and I tell people, man, if I knew 25 years ago how much work it was going to be with my husband and I working on our relationship and doing like the similar self-care and self-love practices that I do for myself. I extend that, I radiate that, and we do that as a couple. Like we have dates, and we do things that fill our cups, not for necessarily a specific goal, but just that we know that this is going to keep that momentum and the energy of our relationship. And that just takes time, lots of time and patience. Because, honestly, I can't say, that in these 25 years of marriage, it's all been rainbows and glitter and all the things. There's been some really, really challenging times where we've had to like dig in and get to the root of, the personal issue with each one of us, and then be able to work on that together. And yeah, time and patience, although not glamorous, like crucial for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think, it's important to recognize, I mean, how much time it really takes to get to know somebody,
Hmm.
and right now I know there's so many people, trying to find that, quote, perfect person or, that, idealistic love, and they're on these dating apps and, me included. I've been on dating apps, I'm single and, and I, but I see this pattern, of, people going on and it's like this swipe right, swipe left, and so there's like all that this, okay, I'm going to go this like fast food industry of dating apps. And so it's like this instant gratification. If I'm going to go, on this date, I know lots of people, like people who do serial dating, right? And so they'll go on and they'll go and have like, 5 or 6 dates a week, because they want to find somebody or they just want maybe that connection. But it's like that instant gratification of going out on these serial dates, but not really building those connections. Or they'll become really connected with someone for, a month or so, and then they'll fall in love and then this person will ghost them and they'll never hear from them again. And they thought there was like this deep connection. And so, but it's so important to recognize how these relationships are, it's so important because it takes time to get to know someone. We can't, say fall in love in a month. I mean, that's really unrealistic, because that does take time, and years of like dedication and commitment and so I feel like we have to really build these relationships. And I just want to also share a story because it's, you know, I have a friend, and we've been friends for about 30 years. And
Wow.
I've known her since junior high school, and we've been like, we've kind of ebbed and flowed throughout our lives and in different aspects. But and she was actually just so funny because she read me this letter I wrote to her from I think I was like about 18 or 19 years old. So this was like,
Oh,
and we used to write back and forth when I moved away for like a year. And
back when we actually wrote handwritten letters, right?
yes.
Even before email. Oh my gosh, we are dinosaurs. No, I'm just kidding.
That kind of dates me, but yeah. It was so funny, but this person has seen me, this friend, my soul sister, she has seen me through every or so many of the aspects of my life, the hard stuff, the fun stuff, all of the stuff. But, we use this app called Voxer.
Uh,
And so even though we can't see each other very often, I probably see her I don't know, like 3 or 4 times a year, honestly. She's like a single mom and so we've got our different lives going, but we like Vox almost every day. And so
mm,
we're sharing our most vulnerable aspects and we'll be processing things that are really deep. Um, and I was sharing something with her today or yesterday about something that was coming up for me, and but she messaged me and she said exactly what I needed to hear
mm,
because she knows me so well, and it was just like these are the relationships that it takes time to build, but when you have someone that knows you so well and you can be completely vulnerable, and we've created this safe space. We call it our safe, our sacred sister circle, um, or sacred sister space that we have. And so it feels so good because we know each other that well, and we're able to really validate and provide safe space. And it's not a space that we go into complain about things, although maybe there might be, some of that because we want to process, but we're
sure.
looking at the higher, perspectives of things. So it's a healthy balance of, okay, this is my part in this, and what am I seeing or not seeing? And we're so open to feedback. And I just love that what we've created. And I feel like
Mm,
we are all craving that. I know I was. I
yes.
mean, I can't say all because I don't want to generalize, but I feel like there is that depth that is so needed and
Yeah.
necessary when you have sisters or brothers, people that you can really connect with on that level.
Yeah, I do really think that building of trust and safety within relationships is, I think it's crucial for our mental and emotional well-being. I honestly don't know of anyone who is very isolated and is deeply and authentically, happy. And I don't mean that in a flippant way, but I mean, I've said this before, but like humans, we are just energetically designed to be in community. And over the years, I know I've intentionally looked for community like your friend where I can be vulnerable and it is a safe place to do that. I wanted to circle back just a little bit when you mentioned about the dating apps and being ghosted. And so I'm kind of like drawing this back, like, yes, we definitely need those intimate relationships and friendships to it's as a healing process. And then there's this aspect of, well, what if it doesn't work out? Or what if it gets to the point of being ghosted? And I mean, I personally haven't had this in a dating app romantic relationship kind of way, but definitely with friendships. I'm like, I've had it where I'm reaching out, and it's very one-sided. And then I don't hear back. Like either the phone calls aren't returned or the emails are neglected. And so that can be really difficult for me because then when I'm not in a deep self-love practice for myself, I start thinking, am I not worthy? Like, am I not worth the time and energy in this friendship? And that can just be kind of a head trip, I think. And so I just want to address this to our listeners. Like, if you find that you're the one always extending, or if you find that you're getting ghosted more often, I would say circle back to the self. Like, what's the energy? And I'm not saying that it's our fault by any means, but I do think there is a level of discernment, like we mentioned before, and ownership of, okay, do I feel worthy of receiving relationships? Am I willing to be vulnerable? Am I willing to put the time and effort into building that safety and trust in a relationship? And just to have that like inner work, I think is also really important as well. But I'd be curious, Stacy, like what are your thoughts on like being ghosted, and when that's happened, like how do you process through that? Because I think that's can be triggering for many people.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question because I think it happens so often for people, and it's such a common theme. Um, my thoughts are, to certainly not internalize it because, someone else is maybe ghosting for reasons beyond what, they might be able to comprehend. I
Right.
honestly think there's like, some sort of energy of attachment. Sometimes there's, avoidant, anxious attachment energy going on. Someone will push, someone will pull, and there's like, this ebb and flow of energy. And so when we maybe push too much in a relationship, it can, trigger someone else's wounds, and they can maybe pull away. And so I think that, that's happening a lot, because we do have a lot of maybe anxious attachment on the spectrum, and it is a spectrum. I think we all can really have those energies. It's just really owning where are we, in that relationship. And then, yeah, coming back to the self, like, how are we like honoring ourselves in the relationship? And, is there a sense of maybe, um, that desperation of
Yeah.
needing someone else's approval, or needing, quote, needing love,
Right.
and where are we not filling our own love up? And so then that can push someone else away.
Sure. I was going to say, like, where are we giving our power away?
Hmm.
And I know I've fallen into that trap a lot, in that external validation. It kind of, like we mentioned in the last episode around self-love, like how am I giving my power away too much, really? And that I'm not taking ownership of, feeling that it is my birthright. I am deserving to fill myself with love and compassion and kindness. And we can do that in so many ways. And so that's kind of what like triggered for me. It was like, oh, how is someone or myself giving our power away? And what can we do to really stand firm? And which kind of leads into how do we radiate in a practical way, radiate that this inner love that we've cultivated ourselves, and do that authentically outward. And at the grocery store and just having a quick but kind conversation.
Yes, absolutely. I think, when we really show up for ourselves, and, we are confident, and that will come across, right? When you are connected to yourself, and when you are worthy of your own love, and you can feel that gentle, quiet confidence exudes
Mm,
outward. And so it can really, people feel that energy.
yeah.
And, yeah, standing in a grocery store, smiling to somebody, and allowing that energy to exude outward, by sometimes just, yeah, giving a smile, or, asking someone how they're doing, connecting with the cashier, and because those conversations are meaningful. And sometimes, people don't receive that kind of connection, and
That's
they're,
very true. I say
yeah,
that's very true. Like when someone is totally present with me, and they're like looking me in the eyes, and like nothing else exists for them, and it's magic, right?
hmm
Like it's It's magic.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in the grocery store yesterday and I was, and I could tell that the cashier was like rushing me through and like really, they asked me how I was doing and I looked them in the eye like because I was trying to be very present. I was like, I'm doing really well. How are you? And and they, were again rushing and then they were like, okay, have a great day. And like they gave me my bags and I'm like, and I looked her in the eye and I was just very like still for a moment. I was like, I hope you have a really wonderful day. And she just like, but that energy, like it was, it took her out of that rush that she had to get through. And I got that she was like busy, but I was trying not to be pulled by her energy because she was super feeling really rushed in that moment. So I think
Mm.
those moments really people they remember and they feel that energy.
Yeah, I think so too. And then we can even extend that out even further if a person feels called to either work with or donate to a nonprofit organization where that same love, radiates out even further into the world. So that would be my other encouragement to our listeners. Is there a particular nonprofit? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a defined organized one, but something where you don't know the people that you are affecting necessarily, at least maybe not on a very personal level, but it's extending that vibrational patterns of love and abundance and generosity. And that's how we bring healing into the world.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think we can just come from a heart-centered place and give from that place.
Yeah. And thank you for listening to Be the Love podcast. If you have enjoyed listening to our show, please share the love by sharing it with your family and friends, giving us a 5-star written review on iTunes and Spotify, or liking us on Facebook. And if you haven't heard, we are so excited to announce the Awaken Your Soul Costa Rica retreat. It's November 6th through the 12th of 2023. We would love to have you join us for a beautiful and vibrational raising experience. Check out the webpage with details and registration in the show notes. And I am Brenda Carey. As a holistic healer, I offer coaching and online programs to guide people in their sacred path to vibrant health. Check out my website. It's sacredpathyogaandreiki.com.
And I'm Stacy Musial. I'm a psychotherapist specializing in whole person deep soul healing. And you can find out more about my work, my book, programs, and our Costa Rica retreat at awakenyourempoweredsoul.com. And we will add those to the show notes. And please consider supporting our mission to awaken our souls with a monthly donation that helps us with the operating costs of this podcast so we can continue to spread the love. To contribute, visit our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love podcast. And stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 a.m. Mountain Time.